Welcome back to the Dark Reading News Desk, coming to you live from Black Hat USA in Las Vegas, where it's cloudy but still very warm. I'm Terry Sweeney. Our next guest is founder and chief innovation officer of eSentire, Eldon Sprickerhoff. Eldon, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
eSentire has made a name for itself in many aspects, but certainly with managed detection response. Let's start by defining what MDR is so that we're all on the same page.
Sure. So MDR has multiple capabilities. One is that there's 24/7 monitoring that's in place. There's detection and response pieces that come out of that. So the idea from a technology perspective is you deploy technology that's best appropriate. So things that, from the host perspective, you gain visibility on the host perspective, you gain visibility in the network perspective, and you supplement this with log data at the top of the OSI stack. You apply advanced analytics to this, so that could include threat intelligence. You add in focused human expertise, and you use these operators, the operations center, to validate the data, the signals that come out of the technology, to validate an incident, get rid of false positives. And you basically have a remote response services that are folded into this as well. And the thing I like to think about is it's not a one and done. The OODA loop, right, of attacks, observe, orient, decide, and act. This is core to that whole methodology.
I was going to ask, this is not a spot solution. This is quite comprehensive, quite meta in its view and its activity and what it addresses.
Exactly. There's it's human expertise that uses that lets tech do as much of the heavy lifting as possible, but still digs into that as it would a dogfight.
Okay, that's actually really helpful. I can imagine a lot of our viewers or listeners thinking to themselves, I get an awful lot of all of those things from my managed security service provider. So talk a little bit about how MDR may differ from an MSSP's offerings. What are some of the differences there?
Sure. So, we've been in business almost 18 years, and we've competed, throughout that time with a lot of well-known MSSPs. And what I thought was interesting, I've had to ask that question myself, especially when you're that upstart.
Uh-huh.
And the way I look at it is that MSSP started managing security technology, so firewalls, VPNs. When they start moving into the SIM world, I tongue firmly planted in cheek, said, this is where logs go to die.
Okay.
And there was the idea behind starting eSentire was to give the tools an incident response team would have, but in the hands of these remote security operations centers, so they could do deep investigations. They were not purely looking at sending alerts, that there was this sort of deep investigation that was at the core of the service offering. And before the term MDR was coined, we were calling it embedded incident response. We were calling it collaborative threat management. When that term was finally coined, it was like, yes, that is exactly what we do. That response piece is so important. And it's not something you can easily bolt on to an existing service offering. And so, I always say you need to be very skeptical of when there's MSSPs that are adopting or MDR washing their offering.
Okay, that's helpful. The detection aspect of MDR seems to draw the most attention, maybe because it's like solving that mystery part. But I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about the response piece for a second, since really response is where eSentire distinguishes itself. Can you say a bit more about how you guys do that?
Sure. So, the response piece, it requires, first of all, incident validation. And so you're able to generate signals from all the tech that's put in place. When they're investigating, the operations center is investigating, they can make that decision, what do you want to do from a response perspective? And it gets back to that OODA loop. When you shut down, either do, say, an isolation of a host, or you shun an IP range, or an IP port combination, the attacker, if this is a certain sophisticated level of attack, they recognize that and they'll find other ways to continue that dogfight. So there's that it's not just good enough to isolate the host or isolate the IP. There's that watching to see what happens. Is there that sort of spy versus spy counter
right.
piece that comes up, that Red Queen hypothesis, right? Running as fast as you can just to stay where you are sometimes, right? So
sure.
that's that response piece, and so much of it depends on the intent of the attacker, the severity of the attack, what the attacker was going after, the capabilities of the client that you're doing work for, and so as much of this as you can automate. By codifying, this is what I want to do, this is what our client wants us to do given this kind of an incident. It can be something where proactively we've seen this kind of behavior elsewhere and we shoot it down as sort of a blacklist, a proactive blacklist move, or is it more that dogfight piece where we just keep watching for the attack vector to come up again?
Okay. Is this different from what some people refer to as an orchestrated response, or what might be the differences?
Sure. So, I think orchestrated response would have been something that we referred to it if we'd thought about it, pre-MDR.
Fair enough.
And because there's a lot of facets within orchestrated response that we take care of, and that's the idea when a client brings us on, we're taking care of a lot of their incident response as though we are part of an extension of their team. We have things like prioritized security alerts. There's threat context that is folded into it. When an analyst in our operations center gets indicator of compromise that comes through them, they've got multiple screens that come up which has full packet capture for analysis. There's analysis or data regarding what does the client want us to do? Have we seen this kind of attack before? And that's sort of full. There's some blacklisting pieces, which is sort of that semi-automatic incident response, which is a big piece of the orchestrated response definition. Threat intel parts get regular updates that of data that's relevant and curated, and we get a lot of feeds. We create our own feeds. What we really like about our aspect is that we have perfect provenance on attack data because we've seen this across our other client base. And so that's how it differs from a lot of other threat intel you're pulling from other places. And I guess the last thing is when you've got the event that comes through, that indicator of compromise or an indicator of concern, that you can very quickly, the operator can quickly shoot that down or escalate or as needs to be. And that's, if you're building up your own SOC, you'd be looking at those kind of capabilities as well. And I think that's where orchestrated response, if you're building your own SOC, fits into it. So we are taking that kind of that need and giving it to our clients as a service.
Okay. Eldon, we have just a little bit of time left. Certainly not enough to do justice to the issue of artificial intelligence and machine learning, but in the time we have left, can you talk a bit about how eSentire leverages AI and machine learning to create better products and greater security for end users?
So I don't like the term AI that much, but machine learning, I'm good with. It's there's a team called ATA in eSentire called Advanced Threat Analytics. We're building tools that look at very specific problem spaces. We don't want to boil the ocean. Machine learning is great at figuring out, statistically what is less likely, what behavior is less likely to be good. You can't graduate people fast enough, train people up to deal with all the new data that's coming through. We've been using ML models for almost the last 3 years to help supplement the hands-on work that our operators in the operations center use. We've had some incredible success from that, but again, I'm a math guy, and so it's nice to be able to pull that kind of data through. That finally you have this huge lake of data. We have experts that are able to do sort of labeling, very loose labeling of characteristics, and let tech finally run with that capability, which we didn't have 10 years ago.
Okay. Eldon, thanks for spending some time and talking through some of these issues with us. This has been Eldon Spreckerhoff from eSentire. don't go away. We'll have more new discs coming up right after this. This has been Terry Sweeney for Black Hat. See you in just a few minutes.
Thank you.